Recorded.
Okay, we will then get going. I am Zan Ojero. I am the board chair for just a few more minutes. I would like to acknowledge the fact that here in Benton County, we're on the historical lands of the Kalapuya and Alsea peoples, whose lands were forcibly taken away from them after the Willamette treaties, when they were limited to the reservations and coast range, but we seek to honor their heritage and work with them, with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and Siletz, in all of our business as we move forward today. And with that, I will pass it along for introductions to Commissioner Wise.
Good morning, Nancy Wise, Commissioner and Vice Chair. I'll throw it over to Pat.
Pat Malone, Commissioner, and welcome to the first board meeting of a shiny new year.
Good morning, Joe Kirby, Benton County Administrator.
Vance Crony, County Counsel.
Jeff Van Arsdale, Benton County Sheriff.
Erica Milo, Board Recorder.
Teresa Farley, Board Staff.
Debbie Parsons, Finance.
Gary Stockoff, Public Works.
April Holland, Public Health.
Ian Hammond, Engineering.
Okay, with that, I know that we have a few more staff with us, and we also have Cody Mann from local press with us this morning. So as we move along, the others will introduce themselves when those items come up for business. We now turn to any announcements. Are there any announcements? Okay, then the next item of business is the election of the board chair and vice chair for 2022. Is there a nomination for chair?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Nancy Weiss as chair for 2022.
Second. All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. And vice chair? Nominations for vice chair?
I move to nominate Pat Malone for Vice Chair.
Second. All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Okay, with that, I will pass the gavel figuratively on to Commissioner Wise. And welcome to the shiny new year.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Ojero. And by the way, do we have an actual gavel? Because I would love that.
We do. It's in the boardroom, I think.
Okay. I'll have to dig that out. Okay. So let's see. Next, we have comments from the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to talk today? We're going to keep it to 3 minutes per person. And I am hearing and seeing none. All right, so then we are going to move to review and approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? No changes, so I will consider that approved. And we will move on to our work session, item 5.1. We have an update from Department Operations Centers with April Holland. Welcome, April.
Thank you, Commissioner Wise, and thank you, Commissioners. Joe, good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. I've got an update for you on our COVID-19 activities today. As you're all aware, the Omicron variant has been causing disruption in many parts of the world and in the U.S., and it's now spreading rapidly in Oregon and in Benton County. Some hallmarks of this variant is that there's something called immune escape, or less protection. Vaccine and previous infection don't prevent infection at the same rate as previous strains. However, boosters do help prevent infection in a significant way. This variant is really faster transmitting, incredibly quickly transmitting. And we are seeing a lower hospitalization rate relative to the Delta variant in particular. However, so compared to Delta, individual is much less likely to be hospitalized. However, given the increase in transmission, more cases, even with a smaller rate, we're likely to see more severe illness than we did previously with Delta. So I'm going to jump into cases first. We'll talk about hospitalizations briefly and talk about vaccination, and then I'll close up with some changes in guidance, and mostly just to answer any questions you might have. Our cases have gone to new heights in the last couple of weeks here, last week in particular. So the week of the 12th of December, we had 92 cases, which was kind of where we'd been sitting for a little while. And the following week, the week of the 19th, our cases jumped 90% to 175 in the week. And then closing up the week of the 26th, we had 421 cases, so that was 140% increase from the previous week. Our 7-day case rate is 445 cases per 100,000 people. More cases than we've ever seen, certainly. Our testing positivity rate has jumped dramatically as well. That indicates that our testing system is struggling and likely isn't able to capture all positive cases. Our testing positivity rate for the last full week of data was 13.7%. And this was with almost 3,500 tests being conducted. We also know that many people are using rapid antigen tests at home tests for COVID-19. These often aren't reported to the county, so we can safely estimate that COVID is even more widespread than our numbers currently indicate. Regarding hospitalizations and severe illness, thankfully, vaccination and especially having a booster dose provide good protection against severe disease. And though the protection afforded by vaccination will reduce the proportional impact of hospitalization, as I briefly stated before, a much larger denominator or number of infections is expected to increase hospitalizations larger than the surge we saw with Delta. At the peak of the Delta surge, for example, we saw 1,200 Oregonians hospitalized. And the OHSU model forecasts that around the end of January, that number will likely be around 1,650 individuals. Here in Benton County and in Oregon, adequate time hasn't yet elapsed to see an increase in hospitalizations, and our hospital partners have been preparing for large inpatient increases. At last reporting, Good Samaritan Regional Medical Center had 16 COVID inpatients and a 7-day average of just over 10 people hospitalized for COVID. We have a lot of emphasis on vaccination right now, obviously, since we know that vaccination does provide good protection against severe illness, and boosters provide good protection against infection. And our county vaccination rate creeps steadily upward. Now we have 70.4% of all county residents of any age having received a primary series of COVID vaccination, and just shy of 40% have received a booster. Our rate of 5 to 11-year-old children with COVID vaccination has increased to almost 50% with one dose. As we know, the governor announced a goal for 1 million Oregonians to receive a booster dose by the end of January. OHA did reach out to determine if support was needed. Unfortunately, we did not qualify as we didn't have multiple weeks of full-time work for vaccination. It had to be a 40-hour minimum for each individual requested. Our community health centers did make a request for a few full-time vaccinators and support staff, and we're hopeful that their request will be successful. If so, vaccination clinics will be held at a different CHC site each day and would be open to the public. We'll let you know if this comes to fruition. We continue to serve people with barriers to access by providing clinics at schools and community locations. We're also working on a few high-volume vaccination sites to help people access booster doses. Next week, we'll have events starting Sunday at the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis and in schools in Philomath, Alsea, and Monroe. And we're working with our partners, Samaritan Health Services and Oregon State University, on finalizing last-minute dates for high-throughput vaccination at the Alumni Center at Oregon State University. We have our sites set on next week and the week of the 24th, perhaps the weekend just before the 24th as well. It's all very, very fluid and moving quickly. And finally, from January 31st through February 11th, we'll have FEMA in town for a large drive-through vaccination event at the Benton County Fairgrounds. So we are working with our pharmacies, and our medical providers are vaccinating. We have our CHCs vaccinating. We have our school and community-based vaccination efforts, and will quickly and soon announce our high-throughput vaccination sites just as soon as those are finalized. In terms of guidance, there's so much changing and more rapidly than ever with COVID-19 isolation and quarantine guidance. We expect additional changes in coming days, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have to the best of my ability. In short, Benton County will follow the new CDC OHA guidance, which shortens isolation for all, and adjusts quarantine guidance to consider if a close contact is up to date with COVID vaccination. So rather than saying fully vaccinated and boosted, we're going to hear a shift in our terminology to up to date with your COVID vaccination. We have updated our website with some isolation and quarantine guidance, a separate section for that. And our communications folks are working on making this information accessible to all. As our communicable disease team and any team in the state, frankly, are simply unable to carry out case investigation and contact tracing given the volume of cases. So they are focusing on the highest priority outbreak settings at this time. OHA is working on a portal or a phone bank to ensure that individuals can receive wraparound supports as needed, and we'll be communicating that information out as well. Finally, very new pieces of information. FDA approved yesterday a few changes to guidance, which are still pending CDC and OHA approval, but we're likely to see in coming days 12 to 15-year-olds eligible for Pfizer booster vaccination, and the Pfizer window for boosters changing to 5 months versus 6 months. Now, this does muddy the water a little bit, because that means Pfizer will be 5 months, Moderna will be 6 months, and Johnson & Johnson will be 2 months. Hopefully we'll get some nice charts and infographics to make that as simple as possible. And then finally, 5 to 11-year-olds who are immunocompromised will be eligible for a third dose of vaccination, much like other age groups have been. So this is where we are. I didn't include everything that's happening, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you have for me today. Thanks.
Thank you. Pat?
Yeah, April, you mentioned the peak hospitalization projections by the end of January. I guess, what does that mean? Are hospitals going to stop, I forget what you call elective, which is not an accurate term, but elective procedures, or what? How do we prepare for that kind of surge?
Well, Commissioner, thanks for the question. Their surge teams are in active planning for an increase in cases, and what we saw with the Delta surge was that at least locally, our hospitals were on a day-to-day assessment of whether or not they needed to postpone scheduled surgeries. It's likely following a similar trajectory. I can't speak with too much knowledge of exactly what their plans are. However, that's what we saw previously.
Okay, and my other question is, do you have any trends beyond the end of January? What I guess, what do we have to look forward to February, March kind of time frame?
Thanks, Commissioner. My crystal ball is still in the shop, but I will say that when we reach that peak, it's going to take some time to come down the other side of the hill, as it always does, and cases will remain elevated for some time as we make that journey back down. I've seen some estimates that take us into March when we start seeing lower cases, and as more information is learned and models are updated, we can continue to adjust those estimates.
Great, that would be helpful. Just to know, it's relatively easy to know where we are now and 2-3 weeks out, but it'd be nice to have some estimates, projections for at least a couple months out, so that I was thinking Celebrate Corvallis is trying to make it really clear that they're postponing the January event to, I don't know if they gave a date in March, but, and I'm sure they're not the only ones that are trying to have events and trying to figure out when they can have them. So go find your crystal ball and
Commissioner Ojro, pardon me. Commissioner Ojro, did you have a question?
I just noted that there was a question in the chat, and that is about whether or not you have any better information about when antigen home test kits will become more widely available again.
Thank you. I'd love to see more test kits become available. There are many efforts underway right now to get test kits into our communities. I can speak to the fact that Oregon Health Authority ordered 12 million tests from iHealth Labs, which is a test maker of rapid antigens that recently received emergency use authorization. Those are not going to all come at once, and I don't have too much insight into exactly how those are going to be distributed. It was made pretty clear to us in public health that we won't be getting all of those tests, and the distribution would be pretty wide. I think about 400,000 tests will be allocated to local public health authorities, and the criteria for distributing those has not yet been made available. The tests that Oregon Health Authority ordered are not designated to be delivered to people's homes, in my understanding. The federal programs that have testing, rapid testing, was a portal site where you request tests and it goes through health insurance. That is not yet up and running. Ordering tests is a challenge right now. I will also just add that as we seek rapid antigen tests, they are a very useful tool. There have been some reports that rapid antigen tests have slightly less sensitivity, which is the ability to truly find positive cases relative to other variants. So my public health advice to folks is that if you're using a rapid antigen test and you have symptoms and you have a negative result, stay put and try to get a PCR confirmation. Some places where people have found success in getting rapid tests have been Walmart online has had them. They don't now. And then that same company, if people are able to spend the money to buy them, that same company, iHealth Labs, has an online portal where tests can be purchased. I think they're about $7 a piece, and they come in a 2-pack, so it's $14 for 2 tests. And that's just my anecdotal, information there.
Thank you, April. Are there any more questions or comments or follow-up for April? Joe Kirby, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. April, good morning, and thanks for all of your continued efforts in this area. As you can probably figure out, the question I'm going to ask relates to the DOC, Department Operations Center, versus our EOC. With the high case rate and the situation evolving with additional booster clinics, if you will, do you see the need to activate our EOC at any time in the near future?
Thanks for the question, Joe. The additional clinics that we plan to hold in the next couple of weeks, there'll be a lift for our small team. However, our limiting factor is always vaccinators. And so our partners are not likely to be able to continue this effort beyond the end of the month. So we're planning on holding a limited number with our partnership, and then having FEMA come in and just vaccinate as many people as they can in that time period. But the total number of clinics that we'll hold is probably not more than 5 or 6 throughout the month. We do have the capacity, thanks to our wonderful and generous volunteer pool, to make that happen. So at this time, no. We are going to see a lot of cases. We're going to see a lot of. We may see disruptions. With schools, with workplaces, as places around the country are starting to see. However, in terms of standing up an EOC, I don't see it being something that's absolutely essential at this point. Thanks.
Thank you. Can you also address, April, with all of the cases that we're having currently, when a person that is currently suffering with COVID, at what point do they become eligible again to get a booster? How long do they have to wait after they've experienced COVID before taking another shot of vaccine?
Thanks. Good question, Joe. If someone has had an infection and hasn't yet received a booster, they can receive that booster as soon as their isolation period has ended. Now, if someone received monoclonal antibody therapy, there is a 90-day time frame after which they should not get a vaccine, and then at that 90 days they can get vaccinated. But if there was no therapy involved, right after isolation is absolutely fine.
Great, thank you.
All right, any last comments or questions for April? All right, well, thank you so much, April. I really appreciate you coming today and giving us all that information.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. All right, so with that, we'll move into item 5.2, discussion on new courthouse location in regards to the Justice System Improvement Project. with Nick Kurth, although I do not see Nick quite yet. And we are running just a couple minutes ahead. Joe, have you heard from Nick at all?
Commissioner, I'll reach out right now. I'm sure he's joining momentarily, but let me reach out.
Okay. So Pat, I had not heard that Celebrate Corvallis was going to be postponed.
Yeah, that just came out yesterday, and Simon tried to make it really clear it was postponed, and then the article in the GT said, kind of the headline of the article, Celebrate Corvallis canceled, and then in the article it says postponed, and I believe they're aiming for March. And,
okay. Well, silver lining, that gives me a couple more months to fit into my dress, so, you know, that's good.
But,
here's Nick is on his way. He'll be joining momentarily.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Part of the reason I was asking for trends is just, there's all kinds of events that have months-long lead time, and is March postponing far enough, or does it have to be later in the spring, or, and obviously nobody knows for sure, but we have good modeling people in-house and at the state level, and so there are trends we can use to do some planning.
All right, and I see that Nick Kurth has joined us. I will give him a minute to catch up.
Thank you. My apologies. First meeting this morning ran longer than I anticipated, so I was just reviewing my notes, and when Joe called me.
No problem. It happens to all of us.
Okay. Erica, if I may, I'd like to share my screen. And I'm just curious, do we have any members of the public joining us today?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you. So today we're here to, oops, that's not what I want to do. Today we're here to talk about the new courthouse, and specifically the location of the new courthouse. As a reminder to all, we're moving forward with the new courthouse, and so its location has increased in relevance and timeliness. I also want to acknowledge that, relative to our upcoming adjacent site selection discussions, there's a little bit of a circular argument here, but if you take a step back, having a discussion around the new courthouse location is actually favorable and will be helpful when we get to the broader site selection discussions, and I'll touch on some of those points today, but I do want to acknowledge it's a bit of a chicken and egg kind of situation here. Okay, well, with that, let me go ahead and get to my first slide, which is really overview slide, kind of considerations and dependencies. I want to point out that I'd like not to get too focused or too focused on attributes of west versus north, but try and keep this discussion today focused on downtown location versus suburban location for the new courthouse. That said, I do have a couple of slides that focused on west and north because they're a little bit different in terms of their accommodations for a new courthouse. But then I'll bring it back to that broader discussion really, which is about suburban versus downtown, and really that boils down even more to campus versus non-campus. So kind of keep that in mind as we're having this discussion this morning. So first off, I just want to share that, the courthouse location was one of our primary discussion points, not only through public engagement, but also with the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, and the Community Advisory Committees. And of course, North wasn't in the picture for all of this, frankly. But between, west, south, and the downtown locations, generally the public favored the downtown location. They felt that both the west and the south were too far away from the core area for the courthouse to be located. So that's a general sentiment. At the same time, we commonly heard that, the advantages of a campus were, acknowledged and valued. So those are kind of the two polarizing, feedback points that don't perfectly mesh together, but that's what we heard. City of Corvallis did not come out opposed to either the west or south locations, but they certainly expressed interest in maintaining, justice system assets in the downtown core for the health of the downtown area. So that's what we heard from the City of Corvallis. Dependencies are kind of why we're here today to have this discussion. And again, this is a discussion today. We're not looking for a decision, but certainly a leaning is going to help inform site selection discussions, as well as considerations relative to crisis center and the Lumen lot. And here's some of the dependencies. So, the value of the west and the north sites really changes depending on where the courthouse is located. If the courthouse is located downtown, it kind of changes the dynamic between west and north potentially. So that's one consideration. As well, options for the crisis center. We now know we're looking at a situation where the BOC building, as it stands today, may not, or retrofitting the BOC building as it stands today, may not be the best solution for a crisis center. Maybe it's better to build greenfield on the Lumen lot. And so where the courthouse lands affects those options essentially, and as well how we proceed with Lumen and our LOI, which we've kind of deferred, but we're going to be picking that up next week in discussion as well. So dependencies, cost is a big one, and when I'm talking about cost, I'm talking really about the operational cost to transport adults in custody overland between a correctional facility and the courthouse if they're not co-located on a single site or a single campus in Corvallis. And those have been estimated at about $250,000 to $300,000 a year. So not insignificant. And then finally, a point that I've shared with some, but not all, our OCC and I match offset. Any property that we purchase specifically for the siting of the new courthouse may be used against our 50% match. So really important point, if we were to site the courthouse downtown, and if, for instance, we spent $1 million in total to acquire the Lumen lot, and that's where we put the courthouse, we can apply that $1 million to our 50% match for the funds that we're getting from the state. So something to keep in mind. So let's look at downtown. Certainly, as I mentioned, it kind of aligns with public engagement feedback that we've received, as well as from the City of Corvallis. As I just mentioned, we would be able to apply essentially the full acquisition cost against our OCC and I match. There's enough room for both the new courthouse and the DA's office, so that's supportive of our strategic direction. No zoning changes, but if you were to site the courthouse downtown, there's still an incremental $1 million acquisition cost. Even though you get to offset it, you spend that $1 million, and then you also have to still get suburban site for the rest of, the JSIP facilities that we're contemplating, the new correctional facility and new sheriff's office. So still spending an extra $1 million. You do kind of limit your options relative to both the crisis center and, the use of the Lumen lot or, that contiguous 3/4 block for other possibilities. So, so there's trade-off there. As well, you, in this case, you wouldn't be able to, if you decided if you were favoring building greenfield for the crisis center, we're not going to use the BOC building because it's as expensive or less expensive to go greenfield. Well, you couldn't sell the BOC building anymore because you have to use it for the crisis center, and it has a value. Total value with the land is about $2 million, and so the building itself is about $1 million as well. So you lose that opportunity cost, and then of course if the courthouse is downtown, you are going to incur that overland transportation expense in perpetuity. Let me stop there. Any questions so far?
Yeah, and Commissioner Malone, I saw that you dropped off, possibly having internet connection issues again. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just indicating that I am really here.
Okay, great. I just wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to have Nick clarify again before we move on.
Well, I missed slide number 2, but go ahead and I'll catch up later.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. And I can't see everybody, so appreciate the facilitation, Commissioner Weiss. Okay, so relative to the courthouse on the proposed suburban west site, I'll point out that big picture, lowest acquisition cost. So you're leveraging that essentially. It does mean that your offset is smaller for the OCC and I match, but nevertheless, you're spending net. You're spending less dollars overall. Plenty of room, and you maintain all your options downtown for the BOC crisis center and Lumen use of the Lumen lot. You get a campus solution, so no overland transportation expense. Doesn't really align with our public engagement feedback. Again, as I mentioned, the city of Corvallis feedback wasn't really in opposition to west or north, but it was just more in favor of a downtown siting. There is a director's interpretation required for GI zoning, so that applies to west and north. And we know we have some just general localized public opposition to the west site. So just all considerations there relative to west. Many of the same factors to north. It is, however, we haven't aligned on a letter of intent or purchase and sale agreement, but we certainly know that it's a more expensive and costly land acquisition and development cost. I think the only other difference is there's what I call anecdotal public engagement in City of Corvallis support. We have not directly tested that, but we have received some feedback both from community members as well as City of Corvallis counselors in support of the north site. But I do want to acknowledge we have not really tested that through broad public engagement. And then same kind of director's interpretation required for the zoning. So as you stack these all up, this is just kind of a summary of everything I've just shared. You can see really west and by the way, all of these X's are intended to be positives essentially. And so I wrote them as positives. West and north, pretty equal. with maybe the exception of, support for North again, but only we know this anecdotally that there may be more support for North than West, or I could rephrase that and say there's thus far been less opposition to North than to West. But otherwise, they all give you opportunities for the OCC&I match, all have enough room to accommodate the DA. Downtown does not require any kind of zoning change or interpretation. But the suburban sites, of course, if you go with a campus, you don't have to purchase that piece of land downtown. Maximize your options for the crisis center, and you avoid the overland transportation costs. So translating this into dollars, and I'm going to get away from kind of this west-south thing, but just go to campus versus downtown. So the overland transportation expenses amortized over 20 years at 2.5% interest work out to about $7 million. If you have a campus, you're going to avoid about $7 million worth of transportation expenses over 20 years. So significant number. I mentioned the incremental land acquisition costs downtown. Of course, you do have the offset. The offset, DLR and I worked on this, over the weekend and yesterday. It's estimated at about 30 to 40% of the acquisition expense. So, for instance, if just as an example, if the north site were to cost you, $6 million, $2 million of that is offset against our OCC&I match. Of course, on the west site, much smaller acquisition cost. It's $1.5 million, so 30 to 40% of that is $500,000, let's say. But smaller, total cost on the west. And then cost impact to the crisis center. This is really looking at, golly, I've lost myself on this one, what I was trying to get at. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to come back. I wrote that yesterday. I knew what it meant, but I apologize. I'm drawing a blank right now. So maybe it'll come to me in the next couple of minutes. But let me stop there, ask if there's any questions, comments.
Thank you, Nick. Is that the cost differential in terms of greenfield construction versus remodel for crisis center?
No, it just hit me what it is. It's really the opportunity cost. If you were to go greenfield, you could sell the BOC building for $2 million. It would cost you $1 million to buy the lot next door to build on for the crisis center, but you would have $1 million at least to work with. So that's what that number was. Thank you for jogging my memory there.
I don't see any more questions for you, Nick.
Okay. Well, this is where I was really just going to kind of invite an open discussion between the commissioners. That's our purpose for having this discussion today, to see which way we're leaning. It is valuable for a number of reasons, and it will help inform our discussions in a couple weeks on site. I'll stop sharing if there aren't any further questions, so that we can see each other and just open it up for discussion.
Sure. Commissioner Ojro, go ahead.
Thank you. Nick, thank you. This is a really nice, clear, and succinct comparison of the choices we have and the potential financial implications of the different alternatives. And I appreciate that. I really favor keeping, it's tough because as the advisory committee did as well, I favor both a campus approach for operational efficiency and keeping the facilities as close to the downtown core as possible to maintain downtown vitality. So with that in mind, I think that my top priority is the campus approach, given that the operational costs over time won't decrease to transport adults in custody. It would only go up. And I suspect that those estimates can be validated pretty easily because just across the river in Albany, the courthouse and the correctional facility are not adjacent to one another, and they have that same experience. So I see Sheriff Van Arsdale's joined us on that one. So yeah, I have to say that I favor the campus approach.
Thank you, Commissioner Ogerow. I have a question. I see your note in here about the additional $250,000 to $300,000 for the adults in custody transportation. I'm not a law enforcement person. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my brain around how those costs are incurred. So I'm just wondering if Nick, you or the sheriff could speak to that.
I can. I can. And I will acknowledge that there's an exercise going on in the background. In fact, Rick Krager and Don Dale and I met this morning at 8. That's where I was. So that $250,000 to $300,000 estimate was provided by a DLR group using our current expenses with some feedback from BCSO. The exercise that's going on in the background, and which I hope to have wrapped up by the time we meet again next Tuesday, is to really validate DLR Group's assumptions. But I know the number's not off by a magnitude of 10 if it's off at all. But essentially, if you're making 1 or 2 trips a day to and from the courthouse with adults in custody, you're running a van with adults in custody with 2 deputies. There's of course preparation time, transport time at the courthouse. These are all the factors that we're looking at more closely now between BCSO and Rick and myself. It all adds up. So the 250 to 300 is actually looking at our current scenario and then stepping it back or proportioning it for mostly just for the decrease in mileage and transportation time. But that's where it came from. And like I said, by next week, I think we'll get through our exercise to make sure that number is as solid as it can be.
Thank you. Sheriff Van Arsdale, did you have anything to add to that? Okay, great. So I have some thoughts, but Pat, or Commissioner Malone, was there anything that you wanted to add or ask first?
Yeah, a couple things that, and I appreciate the work that's gone into quantifying the operational costs, and to me that's a striking number as a business person. Initial cost is one thing, but ongoing costs are need to be considered. And it just I remembered way back to yesterday, Sheriff, where you were talking about the number of positions that you needed to fill, and so it's the money, but it's also tying up deputies that may be in short supply, depending on the environment that we're working in. So it's not just the money; it's staff, and this is kind of guaranteed 2 people driving around, 2 deputies driving around. So, as far as public engagement for favoring the downtown location, if I'm remembering correctly, it was kind of a general question, yes or no, and not really getting into details of the costs that come with that. So I think to me, that's a soft number. There were no consequences for picking downtown over a suburban site. It was just kind of a general question. So I'm not sure how valid that is. I mean, as a sentiment or survey. So I think those were my 2 points. And to me, the campus location where you can get all our functions in one location just makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in and say, when I think of where would I want the courthouse to be, and I have sort of just a gut reaction of feelings of what would be nice, it would be nice to have it downtown. That's kind of my first reaction. But, I also have to consider, we have to be good stewards of taxpayer money, and adding that extra $1 million plus the extra $250,000 a year. I mean, that's a large consideration. I really like to look to our JSIP vision, which says the residents of Benton County require an effective, efficient, and equitable criminal justice system. And, really, is it effective? Is it efficient if we have to be driving across town multiple times a day or however often? I don't think so. So for those reasons, I'm also going to go with the campus location.
Thank you. That's been good feedback for me and for the JSIP team. I do want to invite Sheriff Van Arsdale if you have any thoughts on this question.
I would just reiterate what everybody said, that the campus approach seems to be the wisest from a standpoint of an operational standpoint for me in the sheriff's office, in conjunction with working with the courts and the district attorney. For us to all continue to work in a cohesive manner, I think to have us all in one location just the right direction to head. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness that the commissioners have put in on this. And in your presentation, Nick, I really do appreciate all the work everybody's been putting in. Thank you.
All right. Well, Nick, any other questions or anything else you need from us?
No, not today. I guess I would ask is, I'm sensing that there's some consensus here. I don't want to say that too strongly, and it probably does depend on, the ultimate site selection decision. But I did hear generally everyone, acknowledges the interest and desire, maybe to maintain, the courthouse downtown for a number of reasons, but at the same time, the overarching theme is really the campus is, the most cost-effective, aligns with our vision. It's all about building a justice system for the future. So that's my takeaway today. I don't feel like, if you'd like to have more discussion on this next week, happy to entertain this, but I feel like we got to where I was hoping we'd get to. So if you're all comfortable, then I would just say thank you. And this has been good feedback.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick.
Okay.
Oh, Pat, questions?
Yeah, I'd like confirmation of the operational costs, the 250 to 300,000 per year. If you get any further information, whether that's confirmed or needs to be adjusted a little bit, I guess shoot us an email. It just seems like there'll be significant costs and for forever, and we need to take that into consideration before we start. So that would be, I'd like that follow up, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my objective as well. And like I said, I'd really like to have that to you by next Monday. So that's the goal. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Goodbye. And now I would like for us to take a short break, and we can all come back at 10 a.m. Move us along. We are now into our business meeting, and we are to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. All right, that takes us into new business. Discussion and decision to approve the 2021-2024 collective bargaining agreement with Tracy, our Human Resources Director. And here she is right now. Hello, Tracy. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. It's been a long road here. So what I thought I would do, you've been provided with the information ahead of time. I've given you a black line version of the contract and a summary of the key changes in the new contract. As you recall, we had a sidebar conversation through the mediator with AFSCME representatives, and in that sidebar, we were able to come to agreement on some issues that were still in dispute. And so just a real quick review of what those issues were. Sorry, I'm having to finagle my screens here a little bit. We came to an agreement on the role that AFSCME would play with the countywide safety program, and we're looking forward to a collaboration with all of our unions in that regard. The county withdrew its proposal for exceptional performance pay. The union withdrew its proposal for longevity and essential worker pay. We were, in place of those two proposals, we were able to agree to reinstate a retirement health savings plan. This is a plan that non-reps and ONA already have, and it is a plan that AFSCME had for several years up to, I think it was 2015, when, due to a sunset clause in their contract, that benefit was removed. So pretty happy about being able to come to agreement on those economic issues. We agreed that employees who meet the minimum qualifications will be offered an interview for positions that they apply for within the county. And with respect to the Juneteenth holiday, in the event that the Board of Commissioners recognize and approve Juneteenth as a paid holiday, that will be added to the list of recognized holidays in the AFSCME contract. We agreed to AFSCME's proposal on the implementation of the new salary ranges and the general salary scheduled adjustments over the course of 3 years. This gives kind of special consideration for employees who have been, I'll use the employee vernacular, stuck at step 6 for a period of time. And then we agreed on a core set of several salary selectives that would be included in the implementation of the contract. And these are individual positions whose wages and salaries have moved more quickly in the market compared to other positions in their current salary ranges, and so we would adjust those separately. We also came to an agreement on the recovery of employee overpayments. And then lastly, on the issue of FLSA exempt employees who were working consistently beyond a 40-hour work week, we agreed that we would problem solve that through our Labor Management Advisory Committee. So pretty happy with that agreement. I just want to acknowledge that I see Dawn Dale here. Dawn is the president of AFSCME, and I appreciate her work and support in also in coming to this agreement. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Commissioners, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. There is one thing that I would like to point out is that you have a black line version of the contract right now. It's common for us to have to do a little bit of cleanup before all of the parties sign. And I've been working with Dawn and Kim Harmon, who's their AFSCME council representative, and we have noted a few of what those issues are. They are very minor, And I'll just do a quick review of what we captured so far. Let's see, and that's just adding the selectives that I mentioned. These are those positions that move more quickly in the market. We'll either incorporate those into the body of the contract or as an addendum or an LOA to the contract. There's a couple of typos that still need to be fixed that we'll correct. There's a missing phrase out of one of the paragraphs that we need to add for clarifying the overpayment language. Let's see, and then there's a chart in the contract also where there's a column that got cut off in the formatting. So it's things of that nature that before we present it to you for signature, that we'll want to make those corrections and make sure that all parties are in agreement. So with that, I'll stop, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Ojo, go ahead.
Thank you. Tracy, as it is pretty routine for us to have some sort of a sense for the financial implications of any kind of a board decision. And first of all, I have to say I'm thrilled that we've reached this agreement. Thank you to all parties for working so hard and with such dedication to make it happen. But I am curious about the incremental cost to the county just over the 3-year lifespan of the agreement, just so that we have that information for the record and for transparency's sake.
Certainly, and I would invite our friends from Finance, Debbie Parsons, to maybe chime in and be able to provide you a better level of detail.
I see Rick Krager has joined us on that one as well, and Debbie, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Orgeron, and I appreciate the comment. And as we discussed via email, I did want to provide that information to you. I think in your packet material, I had mentioned that we did stay, of course, within the amount that you all had approved. But I'm going to invite Debbie Parsons, who's been such a key player in all this and the financial aspects, to talk through you in terms of the overall cost. She can give you that perspective. So, Debbie?
Good morning, everybody. So I think as we have kind of walked through this process, we've kept you updated as we asked for increased authority and such. But now that we're kind of here in our finality, I can give you some estimates. And I say estimates very emphatically because the way we pulled numbers were based on the employees at the time that we pulled it, which was back in March. We know that our employee base is not the same as it was back in March. So that's why I emphasize that these are estimates. But for the 2-year period that our biennium is budgeted, 21-23, the contract itself is about $3.1 million more than what our budgeted personnel was for the 21-23 biennium. The total cost of the 3-year contract, which does include budget amounts, but the total cost is about $111 million for 3 years. That 3rd year, we know, will be what we might consider baked into the new biennium's budget. So what our plan is to do kind of a before and after shot. So when we go to implement this in the next month, that we'll take a before what the payroll costs look like right now, and then when we implement what those payroll costs look like, and that will actually give us a better idea of what that incremental change is. So the numbers I just gave you are, like I said, estimates to give you kind of a feel for where we landed dollar-wise, but we'll have a much better picture once we do that implementation.
Thank you.
If I might just add to that really quickly, of course, I'm always looking at things from a worst-case scenario, and I'm sure you are as well. Clearly, like Debbie said, things have changed a lot in terms of the estimates. I think many of you may be thinking, okay, is that something that our budget can sustain, absorb additional cost? I want to assure you that, from our estimates and where we see staff costs, this is certainly whatever that cost ends up being, we have no concerns in terms of being able to absorb that through our 21-23 budget. I think as we get into 23-25, that's when, as Debbie alluded to, you're going to see more of the full impact, assuming that, everything gets back to normal, we start hiring up all of our positions, et cetera. So, sorry, Commissioner, I didn't mean to jump in. I just wanted to make sure you had at least assurance that we were going to be able to navigate 21-23 effectively.
Yeah, and I would assume that the salary selectives are also an unknown at this point, so that's got to be a bit of an estimate. I don't know how many positions that will actually affect, how many people, yeah, so thank you. I understand that at this point it's got to be a range, but I appreciate having that information.
Any other questions for Tracy? All right, hearing none. I do think that Tracy and the bargaining team, though, deserve recognition for the amazing job that they've done. And I think Joe maybe wants to say something about that, too.
Thank you, Commissioner Wise. There are a number of the county bargaining team members that are part of our meeting this morning, and then there's several that aren't. But I would like to just recognize Tracy and Suzanne Hoffman and Gary Stockoff, Tammy Webb, Debbie Parsons. They were the core of our bargaining team and did an excellent job of, I think, representing the county. And also, as Tracy did earlier, extending my thanks to Don Dale and their members of the bargaining team as well.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, then I'm open to hearing a motion. Commissioner Malone?
Yeah, I have a question on the motion. Do we want a complete date? The motion just says 2021 through 2024. Is it appropriate to add the July 1st start date to the motion?
Commissioner, are you referring to the retroactive pay component of this?
Well, just to make it more accurate, what the 2-year term starts July 1 and goes through June 30th, 2024.
It's actually a 3-year term, and I'll ask Vance to address the question regarding the date.
I actually, Pat, I think it's just fine to read it as is. If you want to add effective January 1st, 2021, that would be just fine.
All right, I'll move to approve the 2021 through 2024 collective bargaining agreement, effective date July 1, 2021. Agreement negotiated between AFSCME Council number 75, local 2064, and Benton County.
Second.
Is there any more discussion on the matter?
Yes, I would like, thank you. I would like to state that I am in support of adding the Juneteenth holiday. So we'd like to see that on the board agenda at an upcoming meeting.
Commissioner, we have that discussion tentatively scheduled for a goal setting next week.
Thank you.
Any further discussion before we call for the vote? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you
so much, Tracy.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, so we will now move along to departmental reports and requests to item 8.1, discussion and decision to accept temporary easements for work area on Hubbard Road from Horning Enterprises and right-of-way dedications from Vaughn and Tauman III and Crockerland LLC. That was a mouthful. And with us, Laurel Byer. Welcome, Laurel.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year. I just bringing this to you, and I want to give you a little project update, too, while I'm here. So the Hubbard Road Bridge Replacement Project is probably, honestly, about a year behind, mostly because we received some feedback from the Corps that was a little surprise to us. So the Long Tom is a part of a system, a flood control system, and a lot of dikes and berms were built back in the 40s. Well, they happened to finish right about at Hubbard Road, and so that, put off a couple bells and whistles, and so the Army Corps had to verify and make sure that our bridge project wasn't going to impact the functionality of that flood control system. Well, we finally got approval from them, but we still have one more permit to get. But we're hoping to go to bid in February. And then as long as the bids are favorable, we'll see what they come back as. Start construction with our in-water work period, which would be this July. There's probably some preliminary things that they could get done before then, but not a whole lot. So we are definitely moving forward. It's exciting. This project is a big one. It's a 300-foot long bridge, upwards of $6 million. So it's a big project for the county. So we've got it moving forward. I have inquired of the consultant of actually trying to put together maybe a trail cam or something, so that way we can put it on our webpage. I thought that would be exciting to see the progress. So anyway, but what I'm here for, I guess I get excited about construction. What I'm here to talk to you about today, though, is to actually look at accepting the temporary easement for work from the Horning Enterprises. And then we also acquired right-of-way from, there's a house on the corner, as well as the Cocker Land Company on the, in my directions, right, the east side of the bridge. We needed to acquire additional right-of-way for some water quality treatment, as well as just building a slightly wider bridge. And so that's what these easements and right-of-ways are for. We've already purchased these. The property owners have been paid. And so this is just kind of the formality of the Board of Commissioners accepting the right-of-way. Are there any questions? Yes.
Laurel, I'm kind of familiar with the project. It's been in the, I think, CIP for a while now. Is the county's share 10%, and then we'll figure out the dollar amount once the bids come in?
Yes, the county share is 10.27%. And the way that ODOT works, because it's through the state, is we upfront those costs and then we get reimbursed. So that's how it works. But they only reimburse us for that 89.77 or whatever it is, 73.
So going from memory, I think we were several years ago calling this a $5 million project, and the county would share would be approximately $500,000. But now you mentioned $6 million. Yes.
Right. The original grant amount was for $6 million, and so the max was going to be around $600,000.
Thank you.
And if the bids come in less than that, then our match is less. So that's good. That's what we're hoping for.
Commissioner Ogerow?
Thank you. This bridge has been closed ever since I've been in office. And so I just wanted to know if you could remind us of how long this span has been closed altogether.
Sure. So we received notice from the state at one point that, whoa, you need to post it at 12 tons. But then a month later, in December of 2014, they said, oh, you need to close this completely. So that's when the January 1st, I believe, is when the board order was signed, or close to that. You don't work on the 1st. But, and then we went out and put up the concrete barricades, and so it's been closed for almost 8 years now.
And given the amount of flooding that area does see, I think folks down down there are going to be very happy to see that bridge back in service. So, yeah, thank you. Are you ready for a motion?
Go for it.
Okay. I move to accept the temporary easement for work area from Horning Enterprises and the right-of-way dedication from Mary Vaughn and Wayno William Twillman and III, and the right-of-way dedication from Crocker Land LLC for Hubbard Road, County Road number 45020.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Laurel.
Thank you. It was nice to see you all.
You too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.
I like the webcam idea.
Yes, that'd be fun.
All right. Well, that brings us to other. And do we have any others today? I don't think so. All right. And then procedural question. Do we adjourn this meeting or close this meeting and then go into all of the other? Okay. So I will. Vance, did you want to chime in?
I saw the nod ahead, and that's good enough for me.
All right, so we will adjourn this meeting at 10:22 a.m. and Zan will start us off with the 911 Emergency Communication Services County Service District Governing Board.
Thank you. And as you see, I asked Erica earlier if she would join us on camera because we have to give her enough time to open and close these meetings as we proceed, and it's easier for me to know when she's ready to start the next one if I can see her. So thank you, Erica, for joining us. We will begin with, as Commissioner Weiss mentioned, the 911 Emergency Communication Services County Service District Governing Board. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, the new business of the meeting is the election of chair and vice chair. I will now open nominations and would be happy to take them as a slate.
I guess my mic is on. I move to nominate myself, which feels weird, but also for chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair.
Second. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. It's always herky-jerky for this first one. Okay.
So thank you so much. All right. Next order of business is the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those opposed say, or all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Other, do we have any other? Not.
I want to mention one item, and that is something that I brought up with County Administrator Kirby a little while ago, and that in our original agreement with the City of Corvallis about this county service district, there was a description of a set of metrics that would be used to evaluate the performance of this additional investment in emergency services. And we have not yet seen any kind of a formal report based on all of those metrics that we shared with the public when we were promoting the service district. So I'm looking forward to seeing a report from the county service district on response times, et cetera, at some point in the future.
Thank you for bringing that up. I am also looking forward to seeing that. Commissioner Malone?
Yeah, we have a board meeting next Wednesday, and I will raise that question.
Thank you.
And Zan, I just want to clarify, you said looking forward to seeing the report from the service district or from the city?
You know, I'm not sure how the IGA is written, whether that report is from the service district per se or whether it comes from the city. I think it comes from the city and goes to the service district, and it's supposed to be shared with the Board of Commissioners.
Right. I just want to clarify. I do believe it does come from the city.
Commissioners, I'm also taking this item up with City Manager Mark Shepard. Commissioner Ozero and I spoke about it last week, and so I do plan to touch base with him as well. And Commissioner Malone, if you would like to do the same thing through the board, that would be great as well.
I'd be glad to.
Sounds like we definitely have that covered. Let's see. With that, we can adjourn the meeting at 10:26 a.m.
Ready, Erica?
Just a moment, please. Ready to go. Yeah, ready to go.
Thank you. Masks make it harder for me to tell. Appreciate the verbal. Okay. I would now like to open the Alpine County Service District Governing Board meeting at 10:26 a.m. on Tuesday, January 4th. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, we will move to the election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I hear a nomination for this slate?
I would move Commissioner Wise as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 All right, that passed. And now we are on to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And do we have any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:27 a.m.
Ready to proceed.
Thank you. Okay, I will now open the governing board meeting for the Arsdale County Service District at 10:28 a.m. on January 4th. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the election of chair and vice chair. I'll entertain a motion for the slate.
Move to approve Commissioner Wise as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair.
I read your lips, Nancy. Second.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Man, I was clicking back and forth with the microphone. Okay, that takes us to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
I heard a motion by Commissioner Malone, and was that a second by Commissioner Ojero?
Sure, that was a second.
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any other business? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:29 a.m.
Ready to go?
Thank you. That was a very short meeting at 1 minute. I welcome you now to the Alpine Human Services County Service District Governing Board meeting on January 4th at 10:29 a.m. Are there any comments from the public? With hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the election of chair and vice chair, and I'd entertain a motion for the slate.
Move to approve Commissioner Weiss as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 All right, motion carried. We're on to consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any other business? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:30 a.m.
Ready to go.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting of the Cascade View County Service District Governing Board on January 4th at 10:31 a.m. And I will request comments from the public. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I have nominations for a slate?
I would move Commissioner Weiss as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, and we'll move on to the new chair.
All right, thank you. And that brings us to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And do we have any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:32 a.m.
All set?
Okay. I will now welcome you to the Benton County Agricultural Extension Services County Service District Governing Board meeting on January 4th, 2022 at 10:32 a.m. With comments from the public. Hearing none, we will move on to new business, the election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I have nominations as late?
I'll move Commissioner Weiss as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, and we'll move on to Chair Wise.
Thank you. Now on to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar for 2022.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:33 a.m.
Ready to go?
Okie dokie. I'll now open the meeting of the Hidden Valley Domestic Water Supply County Service District Governing Board on January 4th, 10:34 a.m. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I have a motion?
I move to nominate Commissioner Wise as chair, Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And Chair White.
All right. Item number 3, consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:35 a.m.
Ready to go?
Okay. We will next convene the meeting of the County Service District Governing Board for Library Services on January 4, 2022 at 10:35 a.m. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Do I hear a motion for the slate of officers for 2022?
Move to approve Commissioner Weiss as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And Chair Wise.
Thank you. That takes us to item 3, consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And that brings us to other. Is there any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:36 a.m.
Ready to go?
Okay, I will now call to order the governing board meeting of the North Albany County Service District on Tuesday, January 4th at 10:37 a.m. Are there any comments from the public? Only my dog in the background.
Okay, just your dog.
Okay, we're moving on to new business, election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I hear a motion?
Move to nominate Commissioner Weiss as chair and Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Oh, Pat.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Chair Wise.
Thank you. On to item 3, consent calendar. So I believe item 3.3, the September 21st, 2021 meeting minutes. Zan, you are not at that meeting. And so I will call for a motion to approve the consent calendar without 3.3.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And then that leaves it up to Pat and I to approve the minutes. Item 3.3, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the September 21st, 2021 meeting minutes.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:39 a.m.
Commissioner Wise, I just wanted to interject that Erica probably needs the name of Commissioner Ogero's dog for the purposes of the minutes.
All right, Zan, let's hear it. What's your dog's name?
This is our older girl. Her name is Daisy.
Daisy.
Oh, okay.
She's happily running in her dreams. Oh.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Joe. Ready to go with South Third.
Okay, we will now convene the meeting of South Third County Service District Governing Board on January 4, 2022 at 10:39 a.m. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the election of chair and vice chair for 2022. Do I hear a motion?
I move to nominate Commissioner Weiss as chair, Commissioner Malone as vice chair for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Okay, Chair Wise.
Thank you. That takes us to item number 3, consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Number 4, other. Do we have any other? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:40 a.m. Good work, everyone.
Congratulations. I think that's the fastest I've seen this process go.
You know, Vance told me earlier today that the record is 3 minutes, but, you know, how many service districts have been added since then?
I was thinking about that. There were 6 when Bob Speaker did it. There were 6.
Okay.
But still, 3 minutes is a record that I think won't be beat.
I don't think it'll be beat.
Yeah, that's rapid.
I like the challenge, though, Vance.
I sense you building for next year, Pat.
All right. Well, are we good to go then? Is there anything else that we need to do today for this meeting? All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm looking forward to next year. Have a good afternoon.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Bye.